Muted?
Well, the guy muted all of us for a minute.
Oh, we're now live. I think I'm gonna.
So that means it probably. We're allowed to unmute if we want for now. I think he was just practicing to make sure he could do it.
Well, I think the live, the service is going to start streaming in a minute.
Yeah, I think it's up. It's just showing this view, the big view.
Pittsburgh, even just from when I started undergrad to now, has changed so much. So is that for them to be able to see?
That's for, yes, Alan and Vicky to be able
Next level.
right. That's just pray that actually works.
You know, 9 months of relying on technology.
Yeah.
Nothing was. Ever. Our lives would be to meet my feet.
I like this man.
Chunny, this guy, Feldman guy, he's the one who helped us with Mom. Remember when we all jammed into his office? And
Oh,
and he was so funny and so good with us. And he's the one who said, "Oh, he's kind of a rabbi."
Right. Hey, Julie.
That's so on brand.
Hey, Julie, the order is Jen, you, me, Tracy, Tina, Chunny, right? Okay.
so I'm last. Okay.
Here, I'll put that in the chat. Yeah, he this morning he wrote in an email, he said, less whiskey, more coffee, but now he wants more, less coffee, more whiskey.
Hey, Chunny, you might want to change your name to Ed.
Okay.
Because I don't think the rabbi or Jim will recognize Chunny in the lineup.
Let
Wow.
me see. I'm trying to change. How do I do this?
What do you mean, how do you're our tech guru?
You have her top
I
right
don't-
of your photo. Top right of
Yeah.
your photo, there are 3 little dots, and click on that and it says rename.
Or you could just write
Let me
the,
see the-
The iPad is for you to be able to see the speakers. So hold that up when they're ready. So please have a seat.
We'll put those on in 1 second. We'll put them on all together. Everybody can hear me, Jim? They can hear me?
They can hear you, but let me go ahead and turn on your microphone, make it better.
All right.
And ladies and gentlemen, if I can remind all of you to turn off your cell phones for the service.
The first thing that we are going to do here today, so if you're here in person, it's on your seat, and at home, Julie and Jamie and we talked about how to make a ribbon at home. So what this custom is, this is called our Kriya ribbon. Kriya is from the word to tear. And the tearing of this ribbon symbolizes what used to be sort of in traditional customs, the tearing of our clothing, which symbolizes so many things. It symbolizes the tears in our heart after we've experienced a loss. It embodies the way that just as the tear in the fabric could be sewn up to become one piece again, it's never quite the same again. Never quite the same. The tear is permanent. And so in a moment, we can all tear those. And if you have one at home, please tear it with us. And we're going to say 3 Hebrew words. They're Baruch, Dayan, Ha'emet. And so if you get ready to tear and repeat after me, the first word is Baruch, Dayan, Ha'emet. Then we'll pin that right over our heart. You're just fighting it, Alan. There you go. We're here today as we remember Jeff and join our hearts together and give comfort and strength to his family. Mourning is a time filled with many emotions and memories, both bitter and sweet. We begin our service with a recitation of psalms and prayers, thus linking Jeff's life with the millennia-old tradition of the people of Israel and the eternity of God. Psalm 23. Adonai ro'i lo achzar, binot deshe yabetzenu. With God as my shepherd, I shall not want. The Eternal makes me lie down in green pastures, leads me beside the still waters, restores my soul, guides me in straight paths for the sake of God's name. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You've anointed my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Eternal forever. Psalm 121, I often say, is the psalm for Denver. because it says, I lift my eyes to the mountains. Where will my help come from? My help will come from God. A song for ascent. I turn my eyes to the mountains. From where will my help come? My help comes from God, maker of heaven and earth. God will not let your foot give way. Your guardian will not slumber. See, the guardian of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. God is your guardian. God is your protection at your right hand. By day, the sun will not strike you, nor the moon by night. God will guard you for all the harm. God will guard you your life. God will guard you going and coming now and forever. So we are going to have 6 speakers, which, as I said to all of you who are on Zoom on Saturday, that's pretty remarkable in its own right, and a real testament to the person that we are here to remember today, a real testament to Jeff and who he was, that so many people want to stand up and speak on his behalf and talk about him and for him and remember him with so much honor. And so that's really a gift. So first, we're going to start with Jen.
Jeff, you've truly had a special place in our lives. I've been asked a number of times if I wished I had more brothers and less sisters, and I've always answered without hesitation. Why would I want another brother when the one I have has one of the kindest hearts of anyone I know? It would be simply absurd to want anything else. I tell patients that I think most people are inherently good and may get influenced by their environment or other factors to behave less positively. And when I talk about inherent goodness, you're the one who I think about. Liam and Molly say you don't have a mean bone in your body, and you're our example of someone who doesn't judge or demean, who accepts the people for who they are. There was only one time I remember you really talking negatively about people, and it was at lunch at Piccolo's. Out of the blue, you went on a 30-minute tirade about nearly everything that had ever upset you in your entire life. And I sat there like a deer in headlights because I was so used to you being a man of so few words. I felt honored that you were willing to share with me, as I often felt like I didn't know your inner world. Some of my favorite moments with you were having serious talk, but also have been sharing laughter over Jewish jokes and watching you play with my kids and dogs. When I was a young girl and disliked neighborhood boys, I could count on you to run at them, arms waving, scaring them away on my behalf as they tried to hide in our yard, with you and I cracking up as they scurried away. I'm sorry you had to work so hard to accomplish certain things that other people take for granted, but I'm grateful that you had many of your own hidden gifts, like your spatial abilities where you could build a perfect 1-foot-long Lego Star Wars spaceship, your knowledge of Judaism, your ability to transform into a human jungle gym for your nieces and nephews, your endless curiosity about certain topics, your ability to itch just the right spot on the dog's ears and tummy, and being able to give a sincere apology. It's unfair that your most beautiful parts were on the inside in a world where some people are overly obsessed with the outside. So here's a poem for you that I've significantly modified, but was originally written by Teresa Reck, that's called Beauty Comes From Within. Beauty shines from his eyes, such a gentle soul. As you hear his soft whisper, spoken words make you feel whole. Beauty so true comes from inside, simply pure and without deceit, reminiscent of a blossoming flower, an unfading gentleness most people never meet. Beauty inspired by unfailing playfulness, a soul ignited with a heart of gold, spreading kindness inside and out, a sight with which you can behold. Uncle Jeff, we miss you, we love you, and we're gonna think of you every day. I wish we'd had more time with you, but you have made your mark on this world. Liam wanted me to tell you, you were really, really nice to me and Molly. I really liked your riddles and all of your funness. Molly says, I'm gonna miss you over the years. You were always so silly. Brett says, I will miss you and your corny jokes. I hope you're at peace. I'm gonna end with the prayer of Misha Bayrak, a prayer for healing that I used to sing in temple sitting next to you, thinking of all the ways that I wish that you could heal. Misha Bayrak Avotenu, Makor Havraha Leimotenu. May the source of strength to bless the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Misha Bayrak Imotenu, Makor Havraha Lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
So I'm not sure how you want to, do I just start to speak? Jim?
Okay.
Okay, I'm assuming I should go ahead. So I'm Julie, the big sister. And when I started thinking about what I would say, I appreciated that the rabbi reminded us that this service is a time to focus on us and what we need to think about in our healing. And so I just feel the need to share with you, particularly my family, some of my perspectives on Jeff that are helping me to process his life and his death, and that I hope will be useful to you as well. Jen touched on a lot of these points in that lovely presentation. And I guess I start by saying that Jeff had a life that he and we did not want for him, but as with everything Jeff did, he had his own way of dealing with it. And he lived in a way that worked for him. I did not know about Jeff's session with Jen at Piccolo's, but I experienced him. And I think Jen's point was also that Jeff did not host pity parties. He did not complain to us. And that's pretty striking because he could have. Over the last couple of years, as Jeff's health really declined, Jamie and I talked to a lot of professionals on his behalf to line up support for him. And so We've had a lot of experience describing Jeff, and as I thought about how we describe Jeff, it occurred to me that I could make a word cloud, but I realize only those of you on Zoom can see my word cloud. So, but if you can imagine in our word cloud, we always started by explaining who we were to Jeff and who Jeff was to our family. So Jeff was he was a son. He was also a brother. I did a quick count. He's a brother to 11 siblings, and that doesn't include in-laws. And he was an incredibly sweet uncle, as Jen mentioned. We also talked about Jeff being unhealthy and challenged. Jeff was solitary. It was hard to communicate with him. We can laugh about that. But then after explaining that, we always started to stress that Jeff was just an incredibly good guy. Jeff was so caring, he was devoted, and he was loyal. Jeff was playful, as Jen described. He absolutely adored kids and dogs. And Jeff was corny, as Brett mentioned. He was so corny. But Jeff was extremely bright, and he was fascinated by esoteric elements of Judaism and science and space, and he could really go on for a long time, talking about things that were very, very hard to wrap your head around, but he felt comfortable with it. And Jeff was just so very kind. And, Jamie and I would describe these traits to people, and we did over and over again over the years. And everyone we talked to, without fail, caregivers, nurses, social workers, all kinds of different people who could provide support to him. And every single time they pointed out to us that it was incredibly special and unique that Jeff accepted our help, that he was so receptive to our interventions on his behalf. And Jeff, really, he welcomed our embrace. So I am making peace with, Jeff's passing, knowing that he really felt so safe in our care for him, and that was how he let us give our love to him. And, Jeff was solitary, but he was not alone. And he trusted us completely because he knew that we loved him. So thank you all for loving Jeff with me. Jamie, it's your turn.
All right, tough acts to follow. I think mine might be a little shorter. What I wanted to talk about was how I saw my brother, Jeff. He was my big brother, and no matter how much I helped him with his health issues or his finances, he was always my big brother. I don't remember when it happened, but I started calling him bro, and in return, he called me brat. But usually he would call me brat and laugh at the same time. So for those of you who don't know, that normally wasn't serious. And I always loved, I'd call him and I'd say, hey, bro, it's your favorite sister. And then he would start rattling off Julie, Jen, Tina, Tracy. And then he would launch into one of those really corny jokes that we just talked about. Because we grew up in the foothills outside of Denver with not a lot of other kids around, particularly girls my age, I hung out with Jeff a lot. And so I likely watched every single episode of the original Star Trek. I ate more than my fair share of Cheerios. And I honestly grew up thinking that boys don't like fruit and vegetables. As others have said, Jeff was quiet and fairly solitary. So a lot of people didn't know him well, but he was unique and colorful, as Julie and Jen were just saying. Here's how I will remember him. He didn't often initiate contact with the family, but he always sent us a card at Rosh Hashanah and Hanukkah. He didn't have children of his own, but he adored his nieces and nephews. And the best photos of him are with the kids around him. He didn't have his own pet, but he loved animals, dogs, and he always posted cute videos of dogs on our Facebook walls that he thought we would like. He wasn't very emotional. In fact, he was really stoic, and that's how I learned what that word meant. But we could always expect a giant bear hug from him when we came to town to visit. You just sort of like hunkered down and you got that big old hug. And as Julie mentioned, he didn't often ask for help, but he did allow us in, and he was always incredibly grateful to us when he did get help. So with that, bro, it's Brat. I will miss you, but I have some very strong, great memories of you that will stay with me forever. I'm off to Tracy.
I'm one of Jeff's younger sisters, one of many. Each person present today knows how affected they've been by my brother, both in life and in death. Sometimes the distance between what we think and what we want to say is unabridged. And no matter how we arrange and rearrange the words, they can never convey how we really feel inside. Hopefully I can convey to you today how I feel about my brother. Jeff was my brother. He would squash me between beanbags, play Frankenstein for Tina and my haunted house theme birthday party, share a love of Star Trek and 70s rock music, beat us in bowling, love his dogs and everyone else's and their puppy dog ears, and would take some of the best pictures I have seen of our family and children as they grew. He created many special memories that I will always cherish. Jeff was never happier than when he was surrounded by his family. Looking back at family photographs, there are very few of Jeff by himself. He always had his camera with him so he could document the joy we all felt in being together. He also had a special connection with his nieces and nephews. Whenever we were attending a family event, Jade and Graham would always ask if Uncle Jeff was going to be there. They enjoyed his goofy sense of humor, his laugh, his impressive memory of Jewish history, science, and beyond, and his big bear hug. Although we know that hour of death cannot be foreseen, we imagine that hour to be an ambiguous and distant future. Never does it occur to us that it has any connection to the day that had already begun or that it could arrive that same day. My brother may have not led the life that he hoped for, but he found happiness and fulfillment in his family. The barrage of challenges he fought were disheartening, but he remained kind, humble, loyal, and loving. Most of all, he knew he was loved. Cahill Gibran said, "When you are sorrowful, look again in your heart, and you shall see that in truth you are weeping for that which has been your delight." We miss him and love him.
This is Tina, one of Jeff's other younger sisters. When you look up the definition of brother in the dictionary, it says a male who has the same parents as another. Jeff may not have been my brother in blood, but he was my brother all the same. A brother is a symbol of love, respect, and bonding in the family. Jeff was all of these things and so much more. He was the consummate jokester in the family, telling the corny jokes time and time again until we all groaned with recognition, but had to smile despite the repetition. From time to time, he became an educator when he would speak about Judaism at a family event or gathering. I was always so impressed with his knowledge and passion when describing something new that he had discovered or read about. Jeff, as we all can attest to, was the king of the greeting card. You always knew when a holiday or birthday was coming up, as he was always the first one to have your card signed and delivered way before anybody else even thought about sending one. He was the mad bomber screaming down the ski hill, landing at the bottom with a huge cloud of snow exploding upon his arrival. He was the uncle that made all of his nephews and nieces scream with delight when the tickle monster would come by for a visit. Jeff was a big part of our family, and a hole that cannot be filled will remain. His memory will continue to live on in our hearts and in our minds. I am so grateful to have had him in my life and been able to call him my brother.
Hello. For anyone who doesn't know me, my name is Ed, but my American family calls me Chani. I was accepted into the Rosenberg family when I came to this country as a foreign student over 40 years ago. Jeff is my American brother. I first met Jeff when he was only 7 years old, and I clearly remember he was a handsome little boy. At that time, we didn't get to do too much with each other because of my work schedule and school schedule. But I do have fond memories of family doing holiday and birthday celebrations and occasional ski trips together. As Jamie said, Jeff loved animals and especially dogs. I still have vivid memory of him playing with Oliver, our first Irish settler, and later on with Bowie, our second one. I enjoy all the videos and pictures of animals that he shared with me on Facebook. As most of you know, Jeff was a very picky eater, and I want to share a story with you related to that. He attended my wedding with the rest of the family 30 years ago in Los Angeles. My wife, Brenda, and I had the traditional 10-course Chinese banquet for the guests. During dinner, I observed that Jeff didn't touch any of the food in front of him. It suddenly dawned on me that we were serving a seafood banquet, and Jeff was not a big fan of scallops, shrimp, lobster, abalone, and fish. To my relief, the last 2 courses were chicken and fried rice, and Jeff didn't go home with an empty stomach. Jeff had health issues throughout most of his adult life. Rather than take pity on himself, he learned to accept it and never complain about it. His life was an example of courage, strength, and a never give up attitude. He worked very hard to maintain his independence. He was loved by everyone in the family, and he returned his unconditional love to us in his own special way. His great sense of humor and genuine kindness will be cherished and remembered by all of us. The last time I saw Jeff was in March of this year. I spent a week in Denver with him. The day before I flew back to LA, Jeff, Jerry, and I had our customary breakfast at the Delectable Egg not far from his condo. As always, Jeff ordered his usual breakfast: steak and egg with a Diet Coke, egg scrambled, and steak well done. When we are safe to dine out again after the COVID-19 pandemic, I promised myself my first breakfast will be steak and egg to honor Jeff, and also as a way to remember my kind and loving brother. I love him dearly. I miss him very much. I know he will live in my heart forever. Bye, Jeff.
One of the things that you've all shared with me in the last couple of days is about, many just spoke to it, was Jeff's intellectual and academic connection to Judaism. And in Jewish tradition, one of the highest ways we have to honor someone is to teach in their name and in their memory. And so I wanted to offer a little thought, a little teaching in his honor. One of the things you shared with me that he was so interested in and taken by was our mystical, esoteric tradition, Kabbalah. And much of Kabbalah talks about light and brokenness. And so we're all broken as humans. All of us are. And it sounds like Jeff certainly included. We all have brokenness in us. But Leonard Cohen encapsulated this mystical idea best in one of his songs. He says there's a crack in everything. That's how the light gets through. So through those cracks, it's through that brokenness, it's through the things that tear us apart, that make our lives difficult, that our light shines through. And it sounds like Jeff was someone whose light shone on all of you, through all of his cracks, through to our cracks. We offer the traditional morning prayer, El Malei Rachamim. El Malei Rachamim, Sochein Pamromim, Hamsei Minucha Nechona, Tachat Kanfei Hashchina, Im Kerushim Uteorim, Kizohar HaKiyad Mazhirim, Et Nishmato Sheleche Olamo, Bal HaRachamim Yaftirehu, B'Sidek Knafav Le'olamim, V'yitzor B'tzor Chaim Et Nishmato, Adonai Hu Nachalato, V'yanuch B'Shalom Et Mishkavo, V'nomar Amen. Fully compassionate God on high, to our loved one who has entered eternity, grant him clear and certain rest with you in the lofty heights of the sacred and sure, whose brightness shines like the very glow of heaven. Source of mercy, forever enfold him in the embrace of your wings, secure his soul in eternity. Adonai, he is yours. May he rest in peace. Amen. So before we offer the mourner's Kaddish, which is our final piece here, we're going to lower the casket, and there's a shovel and some dirt here. In Jewish tradition, to shovel dirt into the grave is a mitzvah, a righteous act which we do without any hope of reward. With this act, we take on the responsibility of caring for our loved one until the very end. Our loved ones deserve to be buried by kind hands, knowing hands, sorrowful hands. You're invited to participate in this mitzvah, a painful act, however, one born of love and compassion for those who have meant so much. So anyone who would like can come up and shovel some dirt. The custom is that we do it twice, first with the back of the shovel to show our unwillingness, that we aren't happy to do this. And then once with the front, the right side of the shovel to say, I don't want to do this, but I accept that I need to, that this is where we are. And so I accept this responsibility to send Jeff off with honor.
If you'd like, we have some blood right there and some hand sanitizer for thereafter.
The words of the mourner's Kaddish are what carry you into this next phase of your grief, beyond today and into the next period. A year is the way that we mourn our closest loved ones. And this is your prayer to say every day, if you'd like, for the next year. So to ask you all to rise for the mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal Yitkadash Shemei Rabbah Ve'alma Divrachu Te V'yamlich Malchute B'chayachon U'vyomechon U'chaye Dechol Beit Yisrael Ba'agala U'vizman Kariv V'imru Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabba Mevorach Leolam Ome Omaya. Yitbarach V'yishabach V'yitpa'ar V'yitromam V'yitnaseh V'yitadar V'yitaler V'yitalal Shmei D'Kudeshav V'yichu Le'ela Min Kol Berchata V'shirata Tushbechata V'nechemata Da'amiran B'yalma V'imru Amen. Yehi Shlama Rabba Min Shemaya V'chayim Aleinu V'yal Yisrael V'imru Amen. Oseh Shalom B'romav Hu Ya'aseh Shalom Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael V'imru Amen. We say Zichrono Livracha, may just memory be for a blessing. And we close with the final words of Eli, Eli, a song that I'm sure Jeff knew all of the history surrounding. It's rich within our sort of modern Jewish tradition. Eli, Eli, Elo Yikamer Ve'olam, Achol Ve'ayam, Rishu Shel Hamayim, V'rakas Shamayim, Vilad Hadam, Achol Ve'ayam, Rishu Shel Hamayim, V'rakas Shamayim, Vilad Hadam. Oh God, my God, I pray that these things never end. The sand and the sea, the